Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And what another beautiful day. They said out here that in this area that people are shocked at the weather at this time right now. And you never know, it could be 100 at this time of year out in this area where I am. So anyway, I love you all, and I hope you're getting out in nature, and you can always make time to do what is so important for you or even for your families is by getting out in nature somewhere. The further out you go is the better the reception will be with God. So anyway, I love you so much, and if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome, and you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't be afraid, don't be shy, swing by and say hi to Starlight by leaving Starlight a comment down below. Beep, beep, beep. And you could share my videos with your family, your friends. A squirrel? There's a squirrel there. And I'm going to say a toad again because I've been taking toads out of the bathroom out here. I just don't, I want the thing to be able to eat, So yes, a toad. And also you can check out my playlist. Plus, find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So anyway, I love you so much, and I want to say a big, huge thank you to all of you who have been here from the very beginning, and you're still here with Starlight today. Yes, there's at least I know one that has been there all the way straight through my YouTube channel. So a big, huge thank you to you and all of you who have joined me in the beginning, in between, and still, recently, within a couple weeks ago, or even just a couple days ago. So anyway, I appreciate all of you, and I want to say a big, huge thank you to all of you for being here, loving and supporting Starlight, and also for subscribing to my YouTube channel, giving me thumbs up, leaving me a message down below, or even sharing my videos. Thank you. Or those of you that you might just watch my videos. I don't want to leave you out. Thank you too. So today, this is really important, and I hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late. That's a hard way of starting this video, but I hope it's not too late. And this video is about what you can do to protect your children's future or your grandchildren. It's not just about, because, when you have kids, they have kids, and then you're a grandpa and a grandma, and now you got grandkids. So it's not just about your kids, it's about your grandkids, because that's the future. They are the future, and we need them so badly. And Starlight, how are we going to protect our kids? Well, hang on, be patient. I'll tell you what, that is one of the lessons you'll definitely learn when you decide that you take that call from God and do what God wants you to do. Is God, I'll tell you what, even before that, is God's going to teach you patience. But when you answer that call and you let go of everything that you let go of everything, and you just go do what God wants you to do. God is, you're in training. You're in training. And any of you that are really a Christian, I mean a real Christian, there's a lot of people that say I'm a Christian, but the fruit of the spirits, and then you got to watch out. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, but there are people that are soldiers for Christ. That's why I'm here. I'm a soldier for Christ. And so anyway, those of you that are out there, fighting the good fight, and not that we gotta fight, it's just that we are out here helping other people so they can get the kind of help that they need, and so they don't get deceived out in the world and go and follow the ways of the world. So this video is about how to protect your children and your grandchildren for their future. Yeah. Are you ready for this video? Really? I'll tell you what, it might be too late. I hope not. I have to say, I am innocent on this. You could check out my Facebook. I haven't even been, what is Facebook anyway? You know, I put Facebook on my YouTube channel, but, you know, am I ever on Facebook or Instagram? Because we ain't got, you know, Starlight is a bit, you know, I got a lot on my plate. Actually, Starlight just got done eating, so I didn't eat all of it, though, so Starlight was a good girl. But it's about your kids' privacy. What privacy, Starlight? You know, and I'll tell you what, things are happening really fast. And there's people out in the world, all over in the world, that they're so distracted by things that don't matter, or they're sucked in the things that are taking them away, you know, and getting them distracted. You know, there's so many things out there, or people. You might be around the wrong type of people. The people that you spend time with, what do they do? What kind of, you know, what do they do on their free time? They go to work, okay? After work, what do they do? What kind of music do they listen to? What kind of people do they hang out with? What kind of things do they say? That's going to really determine on if you're even around the right kind of people. You might have to do what Starlight is doing, is just stay company with herself. Of course, there's going to be a time that like-minded people are going to unite and come together. Yes, but that means you got to do your homework. That means you got to study those people. Are they really like-minded people? There's people that have wisdom and stuff like that, but what kind of lifestyle do they have? So you're probably wondering, why am I talking about all this, about the, you know, if I'm talking about, isn't this video about the children's future? Yes, but it has to do with these things too. What kind of people do you spend time with? How about your family members? What kind of things do they watch on TV? Where do they go? You know, like, what do they do in their free time? You know, is it to the club? Are they spending time at the club? You know, there's a lot of, you know, people wearing a mask, you know, and I'll say this over and over again. There's lots of people. Today was Sunday. I read my Bible. You know, I think I put conviction on some people not too long ago. I was on a hiking trail and I had I'll tell you what, nobody understood the weight I was carrying. I had my backpack, I had one bag of all my books, one bag of my food and other stuff, and I am carrying all this stuff to get all the way at the end of the bike trail so I can sit at like benches like this and start my morning off right by reading my Bible. And there was two people that came through, and I believe you know, I don't think they read their Bible, but the one lady said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do when I get back home. So, you know, the people who you have in your life, what kind of music do they listen to? Is it uplifting music? Or is it music like the bar scene stuff, you know, of music that's going to, you know, pull you away from what God really wants you to work on and do? Because I had to let go of my music. When I said I had to let go of everything, I let go of everything. You know, I used to smoke marijuana. I used to drink wine. I had to let go of that. Are you hanging out with people? And hey, you could do whatever you want to do, but those things, you know, really I had to let go of all of that. That's what God wanted me to do, because, you know, they go hand in hand, really. All those things, the music, the marijuana, even cigarettes, and, you know, alcohol, you know, wine, or whatever your drink is, mixed drinks, beer, I don't know, what do you like? But, you know, the influences that you have in your life, who are you spending time with? Who are your friends? I mean, who are your family? Who are your children spending time with? Do you even know? You might not even know. Oh, it's some neighbor down the street. Yeah, they play all the time down the street. I'll tell you what, that was a lesson I had to learn when my daughter was younger. I was spending all my extra time with bus kids, you know, and eventually I did the big no-no, because I didn't know any better. I was growing as I was going as far as the Christian went. And that was one of the biggest things, you can't unwind the clock. You can't turn it back, to that time and say, oh, I wish I didn't do that. It's already too late. I started letting my daughter hang out with, actually spend the night with some of the bus kids' children, at least the one family. Sorry, I got like a mosquito got me. I could tell that was a mosquito bite. That was a mosquito bite. There's other bug bites out here, but that was my first mosquito because I get hungry and I'm sweating. So yeah, who are your kids spending time with? This is how you're gonna protect your kids and your grandkids. What is Grandpa and Grandma doing? I'll tell you what, parents. Now, I didn't have this when my kids. Not really, only for a short period of time, but really, my kids were brought up almost their whole entire life with not even being around their grandpa or their grandma. True story. There was no reason for it, but that was happening. But who, how's Grandpa and Grandma? How are they? What kind of music do they have in the house? What kind of examples are they being at the house? What kind of food are they eating? And what I was going to say is that a lot of parents, like I was saying, is I didn't have where I could just, and actually some kids, some adults don't want to drop their kids off at their, their family's house. Maybe they're not, there's families that, you might not want to drop your kids off at grandpa's and grandma's house. So if that's the case, protect your kids, make sure your kids are safe, number one. That's the most important, God first, you, and then, protect your children. So protect those kids. Make sure you're not dropping them off just anywhere just so you can get some time off. Maybe you should take some time off of work. That way you can, make some time somehow or another and find a person or people or somehow or another some help to so you can get a break, from your kids, like when taking time off of work, and then when they're in school, there's your time off. Enjoy it. Because I understand what it's like when you need a break sometimes, like from working and having kids. But a lot of parents, they get spoiled by the grandparents. The grandparents are like, hey, come to our house, where it could be grandpa and grandma are the ones that are, almost raising the kids now. It's not really the mom and dad anymore, Hey, anytime I get free time, I'm just going to drop them off at grandma's and grandpa's. Well, how is grandpa and grandma eating? Are they eating healthy? Are they going to help your children for the future? To have, are you eating healthier than your grandparents? Or is your grandparents eating healthier than you? These are ways that you can protect your kids' future, is by what's going on now, in their life, in their circle. What kind of people are they around? What kind of things are going on at the house? Maybe even down the street, a lot of kids, like I said, I did that with my kids, is, my daughter was picking up, spending the weekends, at a friend's house, that was a big no-no for Starlight. I was like, that was a big no-no. Things happen really quick. Believe me, things can happen really quick. Where my daughter didn't know a lot of stuff, and now she's being educated about stuff because all these kids hang out with each other on the street. And, in all different ages. So you got a lot of influences going on, and I didn't know it, and I was too young to I didn't know that was going to happen, but boy, did shit start going on really quick. It wasn't too long, and so it's so important not to be desperate of dropping your kids. If grandpa and grandma are not a good example, around your kids, you could do whatever you want, but maybe that's not the greatest thing for them. What kind of things do they watch on TV? What do they do when they're spending time with each other, grandpa and grandma and your children? What are they doing? What kind of music do they listen to? I know when I say grandpa, grandma, of course I don't even know my grandpa and grandma either. So, a lot of times, when I was growing up, a grandma or grandpa looked like they're in the 80s and 90s, I'm a grandma, they didn't look this young, to say, hey, I'm a grandma. I have a 15-year-old grandson, people like, wow, isn't that tripping? It is tripping, so other ways is your kids' privacy, about on the internet, on the phones. Some of you might already have your kids on a cell phone. I'll tell you what, that's your own business. But if I was having kids, I do stuff with my grandson. I will say I do stuff with my grandson on a cell phone, and what I do is I'm only showing him because I edit videos, and I'm teaching him how to edit videos. I played a song. It was a whistle song, and my grandson, because he whistled, and I'm like, oh, he's learning how to whistle now. So I just wanted to play a whistling song because they had one from Andy Griffith. It was the starting of Andy Griffith is where he whistles, and then it got us onto other, whistling songs. Just showing him stuff about music. It was educating him on how to do things like that. And just like I said about, editing a video, I made a video of my grandson of goofy stuff, having fun with him and showing what you could do. But he didn't touch anything else. That's it. He wasn't going on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram or other things out there. No, I was just helping him out with different things on there. And so if you do stuff with your kids on a phone, what are you doing? Is it just, wasting the time? And like my grandson's learning how to whistle. And I wanted to teach him about how, he's my little, he's an artist already. He loves drums, So I want him to really get interested in music. So I even looked up online, because my uncle used to do this, how you can make music with spoons, and also with bones. There's actually, my uncle did that too, is he used to have a pair of bones and he would stick them in his pocket, or even spoon. You never knew what my uncle had on him because he was a walking instrument. He was really amazing in so many ways. And was he perfect? No, he definitely wasn't perfect, but he was amazing in so many ways. And I wanted to share that with my grandson because he's really into music. Is teaching that there's so many ways, not just drumming, not just a guitar, but so many other ways. So educational stuff is different than, wasting their time. And also, the one thing I've never done is, sorry, Starlight's got an itch. On my Facebook is, long time ago, actually, I don't believe I ever put my kids on my Facebook, except for when they were adults, and it was just a family get-together, and we all were, it was amazing thing that ever happened. It was when our whole family it was like a combination of different combination of our family, and we actually all were together, which was amazing. It's a miracle. And it was just that picture taken, and also like pictures to put up for Mother's Day, but really on my whole Facebook, you're not going to see a whole bunch of family pictures of my grandson and my kids when they were little growing up. No, because that's their future. It might be too late. You might already been doing this since they came out of the womb. Already gotten pictures. There's the baby. I see it all the time. Now they got, everything about that child, their privacy, everything about them, and of course, everybody's going to just, the people that do this, they're only going to show, well, actually, I can't say that because I do know people that put negative things about their family members on, oh, they're in a hospital, so I do know somebody that was doing that quite a bit, is, now their kid is sick, and praying for them and stuff like that. But now the whole world knows your kids' business, and with this AI stuff, is that you're really damaging them in such a way. And there's things that you as an adult, might have heard stuff not to do this and not to do that. Well, and then we did it anyway, right? Some of you said, no, Starlight, I never did. Well, good for you if you never did. And yay! For those of you that, I tell you what, I could have got myself in a whole lot of trouble on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, coming up with stuff. But I am so grateful that God protected me, that I never went to that, So I am so grateful that I found my mentor, and he inspired me to start a YouTube channel. I wanted to do stuff. I wanted to get that out there online, but I am so grateful that I used it as a positive tool and not a negative tool. We can do so many things with the technology, but what way are you going to use it? Are you going to use it in a positive way to inspire people, to help people? There's so many things we can do to help people. A healthy recipe. Hey, you got some healthy recipes? I bet you can do something on a YouTube channel and you would do amazing at it if it's going to help other people. Like I said, eating healthy. You can have I know if my mother knew how to use the computer, she would be dangerous. I can't even imagine. She would probably get a lot of views because my mom would do some, I couldn't even imagine. She would be dancing in the middle of, a cooking video maybe. I don't know. But, I say that is that there's people out there, you might be one of those people that you have some kind of talent, you have something to share and give to the world that's positive. We don't have to use negative stuff. When I have my Facebook, I put a whole bunch of inspirational stuff on there, even though I haven't been able to do anything on there in a long time because I got a lot on my plate. I got things that only my somebody out there knows, like my twin flame, but God has me to do certain things every day, and I got to do those. God gives me messages, lets me know what I'm supposed to do throughout my days. And the other thing that I was thinking about doing on my YouTube channel before I started this, which that's what I started doing, I actually started 3 things for YouTube, but it would have been too much to keep up with. I wouldn't have been able to do a video every day, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into because as I have gone on my YouTube channel, I wanted to teach people about cleaning. Anything about cleaning, I could have taught you about that. So that was the one thing, but it was a positive thing. It was to help people. So with your children is that you really got to be mindful of what are you putting on the TV? What are you putting on your phone? What are you putting on the computer? What are you putting on Facebook? Maybe you even already started, something with YouTube. If you want to get your kids involved into doing something on like YouTube or whatever, get them to do inspirational stuff, stuff that's going to help people out. If they started off at a young age, and was doing something positive like arts and crafts or, cooking, they would make out like it would be amazing. So those things I'm not against as far as, putting your kids out there where later on they can have a freaking business. Those are things that I would inspire you to do now as far as little, like kids, with adult supervision is, hey, are they good at something? Yeah, it's going to take some time and do that. But, once they learn how to do those things and that they can actually have a business, when they get out of high school, they'll be like, look at this. I don't have to worry about AI. I don't have to worry about a COVID virus again or antivirus out there that my daughter or my son, they're great at music, they're great at singing. There's so many things to inspire people, not to put all this stuff about the family on Facebook or on Instagram about their privacy. That stuff later on is gonna, all the stuff that you put out on your devices is gonna be used later on against you. All your secrets and all this. I'm a YouTube creator, and this is something different. Not on, like I don't put my stuff on my YouTube, not my YouTube, but on my Facebook. When I used to have my cleaning business, I'm like, hey, some of those people might find me on Facebook, and what the heck is Starlight doing on her Facebook page? So I kept my Facebook clean, and not to put bad stuff that I'm gonna later on regret. And there's things that I've done in the past that I can't take that back, and that's why it's so important that you protect your children's privacy, and that means even through your mom and dad, your grandpa and grandma, is to make sure that, hey, we don't want to put our kids out there on Facebook, because you're really taking their privacy away for later on when they start out in life. And like I said with AI, you don't want AI knowing everything about your kids before they even become an adult. They're gonna use all that information later on to use it against you. And you might think I'm crazy saying this, but it's gonna happen. They already know too much about us, and the more information that you give is gonna hurt them later on. So really you can help by, if you've already done stuff on there, you don't have to do it anymore, and I know, like, I could say, hey, did you ask your kids permission, to do that? And your kids don't know any different. They don't know it's wrong. They don't know that this is going to affect them later on down the road when they, and I don't even know what crazy stuff. I've met some people on this journey. I was like, holy shit, what the heck, what is up? Because there are some people, they don't know what they're doing as parents. I was just so blown away, meeting a mom at one point where, if this is all true, that her son said he had 3 girlfriends, and then he was asking me how old I am. I'm like, what the heck? Dude, like, you're, shit, how young are you anyway, And he thought he was like a little stud out there, and the mom acted like this was okay, this is normal, and it's like, no, that's not, well, normal. I guess normal is doing what everybody else does out there, but man, you got to protect your kids. Later on they could get mad at you because they see all this stuff. Right now it might not bother your kids because they're so little and they don't understand it, is to put in embarrassing things, and they're like, oh my, why did they put all this stuff on me when I was a kid, because when they're little they don't understand. But when they become adults, and if you already got like a Facebook page for your kids, and they're not even old enough to even use Facebook yet. So anyway, you really got to think twice of the kind of stuff that you're putting your kids out there, and what kind of people are they interacting with. Do you really know what kind of friends they have? Because I'll tell you what, it takes one rotten apple to spoil the whole bunch. And there was an area, a lot of places do this. They will send all the rotten apples for school systems and put them in that school, and take all the goody two-shoes over in this school. So they keep all the rotten apples over here. So and if you found word that, oh my, they put my kid in the rotten, what are they trying to say? Imagine the family found out that you stuck my little angel, which he's got little horns on it. They've been deceived, thinking that their son or their daughter was an angel. I've gotten deceived by a young boy a long time ago. He looked like he had little wings and everything in a halo, and holy shit, years later I thought I was going to get blown away with a gun by this kid. just stepping in and trying to be a mom. So whoa, is watch out there. What kind of friends your kids are hanging out with. Don't be so, desperate and, wanting to get time away, getting too relaxed with things that you don't even know where they are and what they're doing and all that stuff. So you can protect them now by doing an investigation and finding out, let's invite the friends at the house. Find out what their parents is like. Hey, dinner time. Yeah, it does. I know nobody wants to do that, right? It takes a lot of time to have people at the house. It means that, all right, you got to find out what everybody likes to eat, right? Hey, we'll just say you have a son named Johnny. What does your family like to eat? Oh, Italian food. Okay, now you know what, kind of food. You don't want to just do that once, but get them to come over the house enough to find out and ask questions. Don't just have them over and just sit there and everybody stares at it. They just came to eat and that's it and they left. Just because they came over to dinner doesn't mean, you gotta talk, you gotta ask questions. Say, hey, yeah, how did you guys meet? That's a great way of starting out. How long you've been married? Where's your family? Ask questions. What do they believe? Ask, what do they believe? Do they believe in God? Are you come from a Christian family and you're sending your daughter to a family that doesn't believe that there's even a God? They don't even believe that there's a God, but you're letting your daughter, your son spend all this time with them. You gotta watch out for that if you know your Bible. So anyway, I love you so much. And this is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below. Beep, beep, beep. And you can share my videos with your family, your friends. I don't want to say mosquitoes because they are out here. Let me see. I've been seeing a lot of butterflies and also crickets. So yes, you could share my videos with a cricket, and don't forget to check out my playlist. And I thank you all. Thank you for being so patient with Starlight. You can also find me on Instagram page, and that is at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Ding the Starlight. I love you all, and really pay attention. What are you doing right now? You don't have to keep on repeating the same stuff. You can delete everything on your Facebook, of course, but everything is going to still be there. But if you delete it all, when your kids get old enough, they won't have all that, and everybody, knows all their business and their whole childhood. And, don't think you're doing them a favor by putting it all online like you're saving it for them later. You're really doing more damage than you really understand what that's going to do to them later on. I love you so much, and this is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.